Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and today it's yet another video on my 2024 NFL offseason prediction series. It's the Detroit Lions. Make sure to like and comment on this video. It helps out with the algorithms. And subscribe if you haven't already. If by now my members only section is open there, make sure to jump in there. Be one of my day ones, early access to certain videos. I'll have little perks in there. You can see like my deep dive series will have like my ranking spreadsheets and all that. You'll be able to get access to that and be able to see how I came to the conclusions that I came to, see some of the rankings and stuff that I'll be working on all spring long. And it really is the best series that I could produce. I love doing it. I'm going to do it again. It's the best thing that I think I do. And this is the best team that I think we've covered at least so far. The Detroit Lions. Such a great story, such a great improvement, really proving the haters wrong over the last couple of years when people said that it was a privilege hire to get Dan Campbell in there, talking specifically about Jamel Hill, who still hasn't retracted after Dan Campbell got to the NFC Championship game after back-to-back winning records, I believe he had, and just really producing some great draft picks. After I even came down in their draft class from last year, it proved out to be totally wrong on my part. They know what they're doing out there, and they're only going to get better because they've been set up where their best players are either on rookie deals that still have some time left, or they've got them at sort of almost discount prices, I would say. They have cap room to work with to extend some of their key guys that need extensions right now. They have one of the best offensive lines in football. Their offense is operating at a whole other top level that I don't think anyone could have expected. The real issues comes from their defense. And they have a great opportunity to make a big splash in free agency to that defense. That's going to be a 3-down instant key contributor that's going to take other guys on that defense to another level along with him. And because of the way that they have orchestrated their drafts, they're in a position now where they can get and be hyper focused on getting day one starters in the draft, and the strengths of this draft really fit their needs here. When you talk about getting a fifth offensive lineman to be the starter on a great offensive line, talk about adding key guys to the secondary, maybe some outside corners, some edge rushers, some solid interior defensive linemen. It's all the possibilities are there, but let's start with the head coach and the rankings of their offense and defense. So Dan Campbell's been the ultimate prove the haters wrong coach, and he's created such a good culture there that his coordinators have been turning down head coaching opportunities to come here and to run it back. You've seen them improve year over year over year over him. They were so close to a Super Bowl berth this year, and now just maybe a little piece here and a little piece there could be what gets them over the top. And, you look at some of these numbers, you look at these offensive numbers, who would have ever thought when they traded Matthew Stafford and they said, Jared Goff's going to be your quarterback and this is what your numbers are going to look like. You're going to be top 5 in so many major categories. Top 5 in points, top 5 in yards, passing touchdowns, rush yards, rush touchdowns, total yards, total touchdown, red zone efficiency, sacks allowed, and turnovers. And then you are top 10 minimum in the major categories. There isn't a single category here where they're outside of the top 10 offensively. Third down percentage was their worst, and they were 10th in the league. So you can improve slightly in some areas, but it's all about mostly just trying to keep this group together the best way you can, while also maybe adding a couple of pieces. And I think you got opportunities to do that in the draft, in those like day 2, day 3 positions. You can add another wide receiver in there. You can add like a wrinkle to your tight end room, even though Sam Laporta came on really great. You can add some depth to your offensive line with more, maybe like a run blocking specialist for those 6-7 offensive lineman formations that you have, that we saw that was controversially worked against them due to a poor call by the referee in the game against the Cowboys. The real problems for them comes on the defensive side of the ball, specifically pass defense, which really hurt them. They were not great in the red zone, and I think that's because they did struggle to get pressure on the quarterback. They were 23rd in sacks, and they were not great on first and second down. On third down, they were as good as they were on the offensive side of the ball, but they need to improve in that aspect of the game. They did pretty well in the run game in terms of yards allowed, but then once teams got into that red zone, as you can see, 29th, they were able to punch it in really any way that they wanted to in the run, through the air. So how do you adjust that? Well, you get Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who's got the void year in his contract. You want to extend him, bring him back, really get a full year of him. I think he's a really valuable player, but you can use your draft capital to also improve on that. And then there's these opportunities that you may get in free agency to add a juggernaut to your defense, an instant contributor that's going to help out everyone involved. And you're doing that because you have some decent cap room. So Detroit's coming in with $46.1 million. They do have some extensions on the horizon, which we're going to get to also here. And they have some key guys that they're going to need to sign and bring back. So we'll look at some of the re-signings. Josh Reynolds has executed very well in this offense, despite the drops in the playoffs. As a wide receiver 3, situational receiver, you can still add a receiver if you have him. 3 years, $18 million with a $7 million bonus. Maybe you throw a void year in there as well, and you can adjust the bonus and the base salary a bit. But a 3-year, $25 million deal for Josh Reynolds, I think, is something that he's earned, especially because of how effective he is in this offense. And he's always been a real great safety blanket for Jared Goff since Goff came into the league with the Rams. Graham Glasgow was one of the best offensive linemen in football. He really was a key on the interior for this offensive line that was so amazingly great this year. And because of his age, you can probably get him for a discount price, sort of like the Raiders with Greg Van Roten. Because Glasgow was north of 30, a 3-year, $20 million deal with a void year, I think that's something that you could really get him for. Maybe a little bit more, but again, his age is going to come into play here with what his market will be despite how well he played. His ability to play across the entire offensive line is also completely invaluable. And then Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, 4 years, $56 million with a void year. It may be a little much for him. I feel like this is sort of the contract he should have gotten coming off of his season with the Eagles, and for some reason, nobody wanted to pick him up. Only the Lions picked him up on a 1-year deal. I think he's worth a big contract extension. He can play safety. He can play in the slot. He can play outside corner for you in a pinch. I think he's just a really valuable all-purpose Swiss Army knife type player for that defense that Aaron Glenn, getting a full season's worth out of him, would really find him effective. And because their pass defense was so terrible, you almost have to make sure you keep a guy like this in-house because he's going to improve it. Looking at some restructures, I'm restructuring some guys here on the offensive line, Ragnow and Decker. You're keeping them anyway. I would kick some of their contract down the road a bit, free up just about $11 million in cap space because you do have 2 big extensions coming up. And I'm extending Jared Goff, 3 years, $80 million with a $40 million bonus. So 3-year, $120 million extension. Very similar to Matthew Stafford. Puts him into that category with that extension. And then I'm also doing Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's been fantastic. He's getting a 4-year, $96 million extension. It's the DK Metcalf level contract extension. I believe that's the one I used, was DK Metcalf. So it puts him right up there with some of the top paid receivers in the league. But those are 2 really important extensions that are coming down for Detroit. But you can create some cap space here, and you're also going to be in a great position to still be able to make a big move in free agency. So with these extensions and signings and whatnot, I was actually able to not have to spend all that much for this season. $41.4 million still available. And you're going to be able to use this, and the thing is with Detroit, they became such a good team under Dan Campbell, and they're so well and done so well in the front office. They don't really have a whole lot of needs. You're going to lose Jonah Jackson to free agency. You can sort of let him go. He was the worst offensive lineman that you had out of the 5. You get to keep 4 of the 5. And you have an opportunity to improve on that. You got an interior offensive lineman need that you can pick somebody up in the draft. Troy Fautanu is there. Graham Barton is an opportunity for you. Then you get into that second wave with Zach Zinter and Cedric Van Pran. You can make some moves there. Defensive back, of course, with that passing game, you need to improve that. And then across the defensive line, Aiden Hutchinson's great. I think Aleem McNeil's a good 3-down interior guy as like a space-eating nose tackle. But what you're really missing is that second great 3-down player across that front four. That's going to help Aiden Hutchinson out. That's going to help whoever's playing on the interior out as well. And I think that there's a big opportunity here to get somebody who was a rising star in the past season. So when you have so few needs, making a big splash in free agency, you can maybe go all out here. And it's Justin Matabuke coming off the season with the Ravens, where he was one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL in all assets of the game. And you're going to get him at a 4-year, $94 million contract. Absolutely a perfect steal. He's going to come in and be a 3-down guy. This is going to be who you were hoping Levi Muzurike was. You know, he's going to plug himself in next to Aleem McNeil. You're going to have Aiden Hutchinson on the outside. And then have a nice opportunity to figure out who that extra person is going to be. Is it Josh Pascal? Is it, the Okwaras are expiring contracts, but can you draft someone now to be in that position, like a Braylon Trice or Chris Braswell, or Adiza Isaac, Jonah Ellis? There's opportunities in this draft, but getting a big splash on the defensive side of the ball, getting a veteran in there, I think that's a real important move for them to make. Whether it's I have Matabuke doing it here, but it could also be a Christian Wilkins. It could also be Chris Jones. Or somebody like that, but I like the idea of Matabuke coming in because he has that 3-4 defensive end capabilities as well, which is something that they need when they already have like Aleem McNeil plugged into that nose tackle spot. So it leaves them with $27.3 million in cap space, and this is something that they can really use in that second and third wave of free agency following the draft. Once everything settles in, they can pick off these veterans like they did with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson just last year. They can pick off these top-level free agents who, whether it be the contract demands were too much or injury concerns or whatever, they can sort of pick off these guys and plug them into the spots that are sort of left empty after the first wave of free agency and the draft. So their draft strategy really becomes simple. You get that fifth starting offensive lineman, that guard, to come in. Plug him next to whoever, whether it be next to Penei Sewell or Taylor Decker, whichever side Graham Glasgow doesn't play on. Then you got Frank Ragnow there at the center position. Keep that top-level offensive line going while also getting somebody young in there because Graham Glasgow is getting a little bit older. Frank Ragnow is getting to that 30 age. Maybe get a depth guy on day 3 at the offensive tackle position because Taylor Decker is getting older. Maybe you can mold some late-round guy the way the Eagles did with Jordan Mailata, for example. You want to get cornerbacks. You need to target somebody. Maybe you make a big splash in free agency and get a corner. But you need to get people out there to someone better than just Brian Branch, who's like a corner / safety type player anyway. Cameron Sutton was good, but he's more of that guy that plays in the nickel. Emmanuel Mosley's on an expiring deal. I think he's got a void year in there. Do you bring him back? I think you can probably do better. There are opportunities in this draft in the first round even to get Kamari Lassiter, to get Quinion Mitchell, Kool-Aid McKinstry, who is a very, very volatile prospect currently. Nothing's guaranteed for him. He could possibly end up becoming the Joey Porter Jr. of this draft and end up falling past a lot of teams. And then there's Detroit sitting there at 29 who could just snatch him up and it ends up being a big steal like the Steelers got last year. And a wide receiver 3. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown who you're going to extend and keep. He's your wide receiver 1. Then you got Jameson Williams, who you invested highly in, who you're expecting is going to be wide receiver 2 for you. You're hoping that he turns into that Tyreek Hill type. It isn't just another version of Mecole Hardman, who, despite his Super Bowl performance, hasn't done really anything else in his career other than what he did in that game. He's been very just average and below average at best. So do you hope that Jameson Williams can continue to take a step forward? Maybe it's just a slow burn for him because of a size issue and because of the injury history. But you want to get maybe a more traditional wide receiver 3 in there, like a guy who can be like a contested catch guy on the outside, more of like a traditional big body player. I'm not saying someone like Keon Coleman or Brian Thomas Jr., because they'll be long gone, but somebody in that third round who is a bigger wide receiver, who can come in, be an instant contributor for you the way maybe you thought Donovan Peoples-Jones could be. It just really wasn't that way. But there is a lot of opportunities here for Detroit in this draft. When you don't have a lot of needs, you can be very specific in your targeting to land quality, young, cheap contracts that are going to be really significant contributors for you. And there you have it, my video for the 2024 offseason predictions of the Detroit Lions. Make sure to like and comment and subscribe to the channel if you've made it this far. If you made it this far, just keep going. Just keep going. And you can keep going also with videos here and playlists here on either side of my head. The recommended video by the YouTube overlords for you to enjoy, that they know you'll enjoy. They know you. The algorithms know you. The AI, artificial intelligence, knows you. So watch that video, and then you can just watch all the videos from this particular series in that playlist. And I'll see you guys with the next video. Bye.